Hello, everyone, and welcome to another horrific review. Well, this is one I had to postpone. I was supposed to do it Wednesday, but life happened, unfortunately, so here we are. Um, what it did give me a chance to was watch the game before going live. This is one of these movies. I think I would have been more forgiven if I had just watched it the first time and then went on the review and forgot. On a second watching, though, oh god, this is yeah. I don't know. It was had a decent enough premise. The execution, though, not so much. This definitely falls into the category of ghosts are stupid. Yep, indeed. And quite a few misnomers, plot holes, whatever you want to call it, just make you go, why? So we start off. Main characters are Simon, Beverly, and Finn. Simon's the estranged father. Beverly's the ex-wife. Finn's the son. And we start off. He's arrived in the house to pick his son up to take him away. I'm guessing for the summer or something. Okay, this is cringeworthy to begin with. The character Beverly is the biggest dickhead on the planet. The only way to put it. Just there's reasons she's an ex-wife, even though he's the Simon character. I don't know what they're trying to do with him. They're making him the nice guy, but honestly, I suppose we've all been there, but she is one hateful individual. And playing the victim card, playing the, I'm the single mother card, goes against everything. This guy's falling over backwards to be accommodating. And just the initial scenes, like, it's just not pleasant. But anyway, the point of the story is he's picking up a son. He's going to work on a house, renovating it as a contract. Now, there's one thing that really got me, like I said, the Beverly character is not pleasant. She goes in this tirade about how she's on her own and blah, 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 and the plan's falling apart and blah, blah, blah. That freaking starts about politics and stuff, like a whole rant of. She's a Twitter user. Let's put it like that. But what got me was because he's taking his son and he said he's renovating, you're not flipping houses again, are you? Like it's any of her business. She is interrogating him about what he's doing for work to earn money. And I'm like, what the hell? That really that just sickened me straight away. This Beverly character, but it's not really about her. Hey Chris, how are you? He was one very notable exception. You want to do solos, yeah. When I do shows in my own, obviously they're not as good as when I have guests. That's why I have guests that take away from me being on here on my own. So totally get where you're coming from. And I should talk about Cameron. Now, if you are, I'll tell Cameron you said that about him, which is uncalled for. Yeah, anyway, back to the movie. First tangent over, just a short one. I'm sure we'll have a few more. But yeah, so setup is he's taking his son away. He's working in his house. And before we begin, we found out that Finn has been looking on the internet. Bum, bum, bum. Now, when was this made? This was like recent. IMDb is a crap site. What year did this come out? This was like 2018 or 20. This is recent movie. So the whole idea of the internet, we've kind of got past that. Anyway, we'll not worry about it. It's in the last 2 to 3 years on the road, so it's not like when we talked about untraceable, like the fears of the internet. But he got past her parental privacy controls and he saw something. I don't know. You just have to try harder. I'm just being a tease. That's what it is. Yeah. So thankfully that scene was brief, because if that had been the whole thing, we've got a helicopter parent, we've got a toxic ex, because that's what she is, and then we've got Simon trying to go away with his son, and then his son's acting like a bit of a dipshit. Initially, which is like, oh, here we go. This could be a painful movie. Thankfully, once they go to the next scene and they're traveling, and the son's out of the truck having a wee wee, and he's saying, "Oh, this smells horrible." He's like fresh. It's a manure joke anyway. I grew up in an agricultural country where every spring the muck's spread in the field and it permeates everything. I mean, the I don't even see it as a rancid. It's the smell of spring. I've always associated manure spreading with the smell of spring. You just know it's that time of year. It's gotten a bit brighter, and for some reason, the smell of cow shit just enhances it. That's freaking weird. But yeah, like technically, I grew up in the city. Well, if you call what I lived in a city, it had the title city, but nah. But I'm actually like within visual range of farmers' fields. That's my weird upbringing. So you had like farmers' fields, council estate, city centre. It was just, by the way, grew up with us. And like, um, springtime, spread fertilizing the crop. The old slurry goes out, and that's it. It was just a funny joke. That's why I laughed. You know, what can I say? Country boy and all that. But yeah, you see the initial tension just diffusing straight away, and he's like, a good comment he made was, "Yeah, I was hoping to get you on the 12 side of 12 rather than the 13 side of 12," making a teenager joke. And yeah, teenagers are psychopaths. There's something happens in a teenager's brain that they just go completely, "Oh, I hate you. I'm the worst in the world." And this is played out nicely. I suppose basically what I'm trying to say is the guy that plays Finn, Charlie Tacker, he's a decent character. He actually plays a decent role. Normally, child actors are horrendous, but this guy plays a decent character, and he plays a good son. He plays like the pain of parents being apart and all that kind of stuff, and thinking he has to please one rather than another. He kind of distills all that down into a decent performance, so that's good. The Simon character is actually pretty decent enough. We'll get on the bits that annoy me later, but then this could be my own personal prejudice. Yes. Yes, folks, my misogyny is going to come out in this stream. Be ready. Ma. Yeah, I'm only in mood tonight. So the Good List house, it's Missouri or somewhere like that in America. And yeah, that's the whole point. He's doing it up, and then he is flipping the house. What a crime. I don't get why that statement happened at the beginning. It's very strange. Oh, yes, you promise you're doing work for a contractor and not flipping a house when we're separated, and therefore I have no say in how you make your income or live your life. As long as my payments come in, this is where I believe there should be minimum communication between exes. That's my personal thing. I don't understand exes being in each other's pockets. Something weird going on there. And I pity the person that enters a relationship where there's an ex hovering around the side. It doesn't matter, male or female. If you're entering a relationship and there's an ex always around the inner circle, and children are normally an excuse, but there's something else going on there. It's weird. And when you think you have a say, if you're no longer in a relationship and you think you have a say in someone else's life after that relationship's ended, I'm sorry, that's really toxic behavior. It's borderline psychotic. Like, you're nuts. You've got problems if you're still trying to control someone you're not in a relationship with. It's bad enough if you're trying to control someone you are in a relationship with, but when that relationship's finished and you're still trying to do it, yeah, go take your head for a shake. and sort their life out. But yeah, here we go. We enter in this house, and nothing much of consequence happens to begin with. Got the layout, nice place, lots of property, all that good stuff. Father and son start to get it, and then this is where we first find out something's wrong with the place. The son asks, "Oh, were there any bodies chopped up here?" No, they have to disclose that. Which doesn't make sense when we find out later why all this circumstance happens in the first place. I think that's what gets me. I might have forgiven it after the first time, but when I watched it the second time, there's some real sloppy writing here. Like, bad writing. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, I know. But being a straight white male, of course, that's the default setting. Our woke friends in Hollywood say anyway. You know, I'm the devil. I'm the worst in the world, just for existing. Apparently, you know. Yeah. I just have to make fun of it because it's so ridiculously stupid, and it takes away from actual gnarly activity going on in the world. Let's just put it like that. Just lots of little children who haven't actually lived life, whining and crying, and yeah, if they actually face hardship in their life, they'd shut their mouths very quickly. But hey ho, it's the world, it's the internet. When you're in a nice little safe little bubble and you've no repercussions, you can say whatever you want, you can call people names, whatever you want. You know, it's all fun. Um, yeah, I'm kind of struggling here. There's not much of a plot to the story. It kind of meanders along. The main thing is they go to start working on his house. The neighbor's coming over to fix the electric. He does. There's a woo boogie woogie jump scare, and then he tells the story of Lydia. And this is the main part of the story. The previous owner of the house, Lydia, was a bad person, even though never actually did anything bad. But she was evil. Or sorry, what did he say? Yeah, you know why some people are good? Well, she was the opposite of that. So I wonder about who was writing this. What the hell was there? Actually, I think this is an example of someone who isn't a horror fan writing horror. Uh just the way their use of language, their setup. So Lydia liked people being afraid of her. That's cool. I like the right people being afraid of me because there's some cowardly dipshits out there who, if they think they've got an inkling of power over you, or will take a cheap shot. So the way the world is, you need some people to be afraid of you. You need people to understand. Me attacking this person's not a good idea. So I don't get where he's going with his argument, but the whole she was the opposite of good. You're like, what the hell, dude? You're an idiot. Um, so that was yeah, and of course Britain had to go and help you out. Well, that was again we got dragged in another stupid war with your country. um, but yeah, that's the problem. When you're all nice and comfortable, you can be. We've seen it through history, right? We've seen it with the Greeks. We've seen it with the Romans. I think we saw it with the Persians too. I haven't really delved too much in the Persian Empire, but they kind of fell to their excesses too. So this is like Western, you know, the time of the British Empire. Like, look at the state of us now. We are a bunch of wimps. The state of Italians, you know, it's the rise and fall, but it's human nature. And I think the sooner people understand it's human nature, but there's always people trying to work at an angle. It's not actually about what it is. It's I want an angle to get me more stuff and not actually have to work. Um, there's something I don't know. There's something precious and there's something liberating about earning something for yourself, and that's the basics of what people need to understand. When you build something and you create it and it's yours, that's worth holding on to. If you don't create anything, if you don't build anything, and it's always handed to you on a plate, you're worthless. And I don't even mean that as you're worthless, like less than human. What I mean is, you have no self worth. You have no pride in what you do, and that's and the Beverly character actually represents this, because this guy Simon, the ex husband, he's bending over backwards to do everything for her, even though they're estranged. And yeah, it's just another example of this. She represents all these Muppets that, condensed into one not very pleasant individual. But we find out anyway. We find out about Lydia. And do you know what the worst thing she did? She scared people, and then she had the audacity, I mean, the absolute disgusting practice of dying in her own house while she was sitting in an armchair looking out the window. Like, what a bitch. Like, what a hateful individual. How dare she die in her own house and just want to be left alone in private? I think this is where I'm struggling, especially second time watching this. This is where I'm struggling with this movie and the premise behind it. It's like, oh, have you ever heard of a witch? They said she was a witch. Do you remember the Puritans? We've talked about these Muppets before. This is modern society. Burn the witch. Oh, we need something to blame for everything. Burn the outsider. And it's quite sad. But anyway, they start working on the house to fix it up. And Finn and Simon have they've actually a decent relationship. And he tries to breach the subject of, what did you look at on the World Wide Web? Bum, bum, bum. That kind of shit. In 2020, I remember my own dear mother back in the early 90s. You're right there connecting my weirdos, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't realize, because I actually got a second phone line in the house, because back in the days of dial-up, which we talked about. And you heard, so if you check out our latest stream, the one that was Steve that Chris mentioned there, we're talking about the joys of dial-up. And I realized a sneaky thing my mum did, because she had the other phone plugged in downstairs, because the light went on when it was in use. She was doing that to check up my usage of the internet to see, what was I up to? I was like, I'm a big fat geek. I was looking up nerdy stuff, and I was connecting with, chatting with people about weird shit. I had a gaming club at the time. So guess what? I was talking about Warhammer 40k. Oh my god, that was it. I was on what do you call it? There's a chat thing. I went by letters. I can't even remember the name of it now, but there was it was the first. You're talking about the days of MSN chat and all, but it was like a chat thing, and I was talking about, I was hanging out with my mates, and we're talking about 40k and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that was it. Guess what? I talked to people abroad, so there was time difference. So that meant I was up late, like I am now. I always set these streams so I can at least catch most of the geographical areas. I know I'm not catch everywhere, but any later, and then I'm getting the sort of my bedtime territory, which ain't good when you have to be up in the morning. But yeah, I've been through that, and it's not good. But that's the whole premise of that story: is what did he look at on the internet? And Lydia was evil without actually having done anything. Yeah, it's a weird premise to a story, and it's hard to take seriously. But yeah, the neighbor reconnects the electricity, Ooga Booga scare, explains everything that went on. Then the dreams and the nightmares start, Simon has nightmares, Finn has nightmares. It's a bit meh. The scene that gets me though, both Finn and Simon see Lydia sitting on the chair where she was when she passed away, and they go right up to her. Finn holds up the camera, points it to her, and nothing shows up. That's it. If it was just looking at naked people, naked chicks, it'd be all right. You know, it'd be, I suppose, normal. But when you're like looking up dragons and otherworldly beings and uh like the world in the 41st millennium of eternal war, and you're looking at aliens and weird stuff and you're talking to people about it, yeah, that's worse apparently. I just laugh at morality in general. Sorry, I laugh at group morality. There's two in my opinion, there's two types of morality. There's your individual morality where something is wrong to you, you know it's not comfortable. And everyone has their limits, what they'll tolerate, what they won't. And that should never be compromised or breached. Your personal morality should never be breached as long as you're not doing harm to others. And that's the basics of society, because at the end of the day, I like being comfortable. I like living indoors with a roof over my head with heating and electricity without worrying about a ravening mob breaking down the door and taking everything I had on a daily basis. I don't want to live in a cave, sorry, scurrying for scraps. So we need some sort of rules in society so we all don't go bonkers and eat each other, because that's the human condition. Group morality, though, I have a problem with, because it's all right if people find others that, oh, we're on the same wavelength, this is what we believe. That's cool. Go do you. But when you start trying to impose that on someone else, that's where conflict happens in the world. And we kind of see this with Beverly and Finn, that she has her set in the ways, she understands this is the world, and dare anyone step outside it. And it's the old adage, the tighter you squeeze, the more slips through the fingers. I grew up obviously with a lot of middle class kids as well, as you know, and that's weird. Um, Northern Ireland's weird anyway, but yeah, I wasn't quite working class enough to be the working class, and not middle class enough to be the middle class. But the ones who went mental were the ones with the most tightly controlling parents. Oh, because you yearn, you make a thing tangible, you make it exciting, and you yearn for it. Where most people are like given enough freedom, but sensibility as well. Of yeah, do you really want to do that? Is that the best thing for you? Tend to be all right, well-adjusted citizens, but that's a whole tangent that could go on for a live stream on its own. And I'm not here to preach to anybody, just here to talk about a movie. But movies, especially horror movies, are always an allegory for life. Horror always explores the darkest set of humanity. It always explores the taboos and the wrongness of humanity. It's always been horror's function. And we've talked about this before, obviously, that horror has always been the warning. Don't stray off the beaten path. Don't go here. Um, don't do this. Think about your actions. It's always been that warning of the dangers in the shadows. And that's cool. Nothing wrong with that. This movie doesn't do that too well. What we start to see then is Lydia appears. And the scene is she's sitting in her seat. They've walked up there and doesn't show up in the camera. Then they go to talk to her. And then she's like, opens her eyes. I'm going to scare you. Stay. The typical, I'm a stupid ghost that can't form two words. And you're kind of like, all right, okay, we've got one of these. He does a runner, goes to the neighbor's house with Finn, and then the plan is put him in the bus the next day, send him back to his mother. Yeah, then Louis or Lewis The neighbor anyway explains how he cut the electrical wires. Dun dun dun! What a reveal! Because she was the scary woman. Now, if there had been kids go missing, pets go missing, and there's no actual talk of magical practices, so why the whole title of the movie is The Witch in the Window? But because the locals in a hick town call her the witch, that automatically makes her the witch. And she's actually done nothing on anybody. That's the mad thing about this. They talk about, it's all some summarization and, oh, she liked people being afraid of her. Oh, she was frightened and then she died in her own house. That was her crimes. Fuck that. Yeah, that's just dipshits being nasty for the sake of being nasty over someone vulnerable. Just my opinion. So this is what he revealed, the big reveal for us. And then Simon goes back to the house to finish it off. And then we find out that he'd never planned to flip the house in the first place. What he was doing was, this was his ex-wife, Beverly's dream house and location, and he was building it and doing it up to win her back. I'm sorry, mate. You need to, well, I can talk from experience. You need to give your head a shake and think about your partner choices. Speaking from someone who's been there, this Beverly one's not a catch. This is someone you do not want in your life. This is someone who will use you up and spit you out at the end and still call you a waster. And we got that from the first act, and then there's a phone call in the middle, and that's it. So anyway, he goes back by himself, and then Finn turns up, and he says that he sneaked off the bus as soon as he left and walked back, blah blah blah. And then this whole scene goes out where he's helping, and then he goes up and then he rings his ex to say, yeah, he's here, I'm going to bring him back. But then she reveals, oh, he's here, he came back like you said, all that kind of stuff. And then we see him getting this phone call. It's very like Smile. If you heard our review of Smile, that whole scene, except Smile did it better because there was an opportunity here. Because funny enough, the reveal is that Lydia's pretending to be Finn and other guys, and she's been able to coherently speak to him this whole time until he realizes who she is. And he sits there looking at her. He's sitting beside the doppelganger Finn while he's speaking to Finn on the phone. And then she transfers into Lydia and goes full retard again. It's like, hold on. You were able to communicate effectively. And this is my problem with ghosts in general. She was able to communicate effectively and another guy's. And then when she goes back to her form, she instantly becomes one word, going to be scary, can't articulate anything. Utter stupidity. And this is what bugs me about these type of movies. No need for it. Make a gripping drama. Make a gripping drama first. Make a good story. And then if you want to make it supernatural, put the supernatural elements in afterwards to embellish the movie. I think what a lot of people do with this sort of thing is they go for the supernatural first. Oh, I'm going to make a scary story about a witch, blah, 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 and a curse and this. And they make that story and they forget to actually pan out the characters. Yeah, he runs out. And then this weird stuff happens for the rest. He goes next door, but he's in a dream, but he's not in the dream. He wakes up again, and he's still in the house. He tries to escape, but he's in a dream, but he's not in the dream. Blah, blah, blah. This goes over 100 times until Lydia finally decides to communicate with him. But of course, Lydia can't do it in her own form. She has to do it in the form of Beverly. And this is where it's like, really? And this is what annoys me because there was a phone call as well where he basically tries to say that, he tries to talk to Beverly She said, "Oh, I saw the photographs. I knew you were trying to do to me, but it'll never work. We're never getting back together." Blah blah blah. But yeah, you keep doing what you do. You just keep draining yourself to give to me, even though you're getting nothing back for it. That kind of stuff. Hateful character. But yeah, the only way Lydia can actually have a conversation in more than one sentence to him is when she transforms into Beverly. And I think that's really annoying because Lydia could easily have spoken to him and actually made it clear what it was she wanted. It's back to that's why my favorite ones, Supernatural, are the Faustian deal, the deals with the devil. Even though there's trickery involved, there's still a here's your wants and desires. I will give you this if you give me this in return. And yes, it's normally a trick, but at least there's communication and there's understanding the character's desires and then understanding what the other party wants. So Lydia finally reveals that if he takes her place, she can leave the house. Now, it doesn't say can her spirit leave the house to go and haunt other places, or will she just be like released? She doesn't explain how she ended up like this. Was it a magical working gone wrong? Did she just die and was a vengeful spirit? But it seemed like she was on her own and happy on her own and didn't want people around her. So there's no backstory to Lydia. And there's no motivation for what she is. I can understand her being a vengeful spirit attached to the property, which is what it portrayed in the first place, and she doesn't want people living in it. But even from the first encounter with her, she's like, stay rather than go, and Finn points this out. So the whole concept of this horror story turned in his head in the beginning, but then you're given no context as to why. That is really frustrating. It's really frustrating for a story. But Simon, having figured out he's never getting back with his wife, but he wants to do something because apparently living in the city is driving Beverly crazy. Not the fact she's unstable anyway, and I get it. I've lived in a big city, and it grates on your nerves. I like being outside. I don't like cities. I like a bit of space and quiet just to get on with life. I can understand it grinding you down, but he then willingly gives up his life to basically take over being the spirit of the house, so Beverly can flutter away and do whatever. That's fair enough. That's a noble sacrifice. That's a hero's journey. Fair enough. And then Beverly and Finn move into the house. So she effectively, quite happily, steps in his grave, like, yeah, you died and give me this. I'll just take it. We're happy enough. And yeah, this could have, without even, this wasn't heavily, like, it wasn't special effects really. It was all done, very straight movie, cool. So all I had to do was tell a decent story, and this is where it fell apart. It's just the story was so out of sync. Of course, we'll have Louis appear again because he said he slept walked. So of course that was a drop to say why he's going to sleepwalk again to find Simon dead, in the same chair. Yeah, I actually found myself, I was ambivalent towards it, the first time I watched it and was going to give it a pass. But the second time I watched it, I'm like, God, this is shit. This is an awful movie. Check it out if you want. I'll put the link in the description. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, it was a wasted opportunity. This was a character-driven movie. You need good characters. Simon was a good character, apart from simping for his ex-wife. Finn was a decent character, even being a bratty teenager. He dialed that down and actually gave some character moments in this. So I think he was the best character out of the lot, to be honest. The young boy, he really he sold this movie. He was kind of the glue they held together. Simon was more of a plot device, and Beverly was a hateful, disgusting character in this, and Lydia was completely underutilized. you had no inclination to what her motivations were in this, or how she ended up in the situation she was, and why certain things need to happen for her to go free and go free to where. Problem goes swimming, you try to meet them in person, they said you can't see them anymore. Bum bum bum. Yeah. Pesky ghosts. All I said from the start, ghosts are stupid. You have to I think you have to be really careful when using ghosts. No, I mean the reason of their death has to be the major factor of why they're there. Their pain. So if they're lashing out because of the circumstances of their demise, and that's their pain, that's the motivation for a ghost. If it's a vengeful ghost, it has to be vengeful for a reason against a group of people. But a ghost just existing for the sake of being a ghost. And yes, you could understand the attachment of a property, but there was a series back in the day, Ghost Whisperer. God, I can't remember who it was, and that it was decent at the start, and then as like all TV shows just went off the cliff. Jennifer Love Hewitt, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think that was her. She was the main character, but she did more in an episodal TV series of here's a ghost, here's why I can't move on or won't move on, and helping it to move on, and convincing it that moving on's better than what it's doing. She was able to sum that up more in one episode than a movie like this can. Where that series went wrong is they tried to make it series based. They started bringing in the whole, oh, here's an overarching storyline, and oh, here's like X Files, like the ruined X Files. X Files started off brilliantly as an episodal series, an adventure series. Here's each new adventure that these people come against. But then, of course, there was a conspiracy against them. I think they're products of their own success, what drags them down. But these sort of movies can take a leaf out of these books. Why is the ghost angry? Okay, it's attached to the property. What's it afraid of? Why can't it move on? And then the natural course of the story being, okay, I'm convincing you to move on or not. And it being interesting. Well, thanks, man. That's like I've said before, I'm a fan of creativity, and where to get I don't think this movie was made in bad faith. The speech from Beverly at the beginning gives me an inclination of the type of person making this movie. So that's why they're limited in terms of imagination and creativity, because they're an ideologue. So maybe the idea of a father-son relationship's anathema to them. That's probably their thing. Yeah, but you have to if you tell a story in good faith, if you put the effort into creating something, I'm not going to slag you off for it. That's why I said we need more creators, not less. And we don't need everything corporatized. We don't need everything under the corporate bubble of two companies that rule everything. So I'm always going to give it a fair crack of the whip. But I think it's more important, and this is where the whole social media culture is wrong. Oh, that was shit. If you don't like it, you're a dickhead. Meh. What sort of review is that? If you don't like something, understand why you don't like it. That's important. Why don't you like something? Explain why you don't like it. The same as if you do like something, explain why you like it. Then as well, you can narrow down. You start to see patterns. You start to understand certain beats of the movie that, or story or anything, why you're either going to enjoy it or not going to enjoy it. And it's a better experience rather than just a guttural emotional reaction to, well, that was shit. And it's also interesting. Normally when I have someone else on, I like to then delve into the hows and whys a movie didn't work out, because that's an interesting conversation. It's difficult to have one-sided as to what went wrong, because then it just becomes a narration and just reading out what was on, a particular website. But it's interesting then to have the conversation as to why things went wrong and how it can actually affect storytelling. That's as interesting as the movie itself, the backstory. And I think it's just important that you come in with that mindset. Why did I not like it? I don't understand why you didn't like it. It's like anything in life. Why don't I like ice cream? Or why do I like ice cream? It's that simple. What is it about texture, flavor, colors that makes you either intrigued or repulsed by something? Then you start to understand yourself as a person. Along the journey, you'll find others that resonate with you. So either your recommendation becomes, okay, I will watch that or I won't watch it. Or it might be the inverse. If I recommend something, that mightn't be somebody's taste. So like, okay, Colin recommends that, so I'll stay away. Colin hates this, I'll probably enjoy it. And that's not about right or wrong. That's just about tastes and flavors and compatibility. And that's when you think you understand that sort of stuff, we can get along better instead of this friggin' nastiness that's out there at the moment. And also it's nastiness by people that can't actually fight, which is funny. Because a lot of the people that spew the bile and vitriol are normally, if you meet them face to face, are quiet as a mouse. I'm trying to go against that grain. It would be so easy for me to jump on a bandwagon and spew a lot of stuff here to get clicks and likes, but nah, I can't be annoyed. I like to look myself in the mirror afterwards, or not even have to. I've got a camera here, and know at least I've got some integrity. So there you go. That's where I come from. Wee bit of philosophy as well. You don't get that with Marvel movies, do you? Anyway, there you go. That's my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Tomorrow night, I'm speaking to the fine folks at Acrostar Films, who have another film on the way, and we'll talk about how their current projects are moving along. So that'll be a good chat. A bit of a laugh there as well. So if you can, tune in for that. What else we got? I'm on Adam's channel again in the next couple of weeks. I've got a few more guests on and plenty of stuff happening. So keep up to date with the channel, do the typey clicky things. And until next time, keep it creepy, keep it horrific.